looking this week at the mystery of unanswered prayer, which is a real challenge for so many Christians. And some are in bitter disappointment, some are upset about it, some have maybe even walked away from God because their prayer that they prayed, the thing that they were so desperate for, never came to pass. So the first thing we need to understand is that unanswered prayer is actually an answer to prayer. The answer is no. Or no, I'm not going to do it. So, because what you're going to see though, is God is working something good in your situation. We know Paul prayed 3 times for that thorn in the flesh to be removed from him. And God clearly heard Paul's prayer. It was heard. How do I know that? Because 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9, he said to me, in other words, this was God's answer. He said, Lord, remove this thorn in the flesh. God heard his prayer. Sometimes we think he hasn't heard us. No, he's always heard us. And he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength will be made perfect in weakness. Therefore, most gladly, I'd rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. So the answer to Paul's prayer, it was answered. The answer was no, but in the midst of it, God was going to work something fantastic in his life, that he would learn something about the grace of God to handle an infirmity in his life. And no doubt that worked amazing good things in Paul's life. The second thing about unanswered prayer is I think we need to learn to thank God at times for unanswered prayer. You're thinking like, what? Imagine if God answered every prayer that you made. You would make an absolute hash and mess of your life because you really don't know what's best for you. God does. There was a song, Thank God for Unanswered Prayer, written by a man who was jilted by his childhood sweetheart. He had prayed to have her back. She didn't come. Years later, he met her. And when he saw what she turned out to be like and what she looked like, he wrote the song, Thank God for Unanswered Prayer. I'm sure I had my eyes on a few girls, prayed without success, and I'm sure some of you are guilty too for a guy or a girl. But today I say, thank God for unanswered prayer. You know, some people come to church and when they worship, they've always got one eye open because all they're doing is searching for the talent in the room. Hey, I know you're not like that. You're too godly for that. But at Church Unlimited, we have plenty of people like that. So, but God answers in the way that's best for us. At times we ask for what seems good and right to us, but it's actually not God's plan or God's will. God knows if he gave us that answer, that request, it would be more a hindrance in our lives than a help. So he says no. But in the midst of him saying no, point number 3 is this: don't listen to the lies of Satan. See, when God doesn't answer your prayer, guess what the devil's going to say to you? Wow, hey, you're not a good enough Christian. That's why he's not answered your prayer. Look at that sin. Look at that mistake you made. Why would God ever answer your prayer? That's a lie from the devil. Or else he's going to say to you, hey, God doesn't care about you. That's huge. A lot of people fall into that one. God doesn't care about me. That's why he hasn't answered my prayer. Or the devil will say, your situation is hopeless. It's impossible. God even can't deal with that situation. Or what else is going to say to you? God doesn't listen to me. I'm not worthy of God actually hearing, the holy God. Nah, of course he's not going to listen to me. Those are all lies of the devil. Do you know what they're going to do? They're going to crush your faith. Because you're going to think, I'm not good enough. I want to say, as I wrap this up for today, you are good enough. In fact, none of us are actually good enough for God to answer our prayers, but you've been made righteous through the blood of Jesus Christ. He does care about you. Your situation is not hopeless. With God, all things are possible. And can I say this? God does listen to your prayers. Don't let unanswered prayers stop you praying.